What's the purpose of working with the ancestors and spirit guides? Shouldn't you just be working with just the ancestors? Why do you need spirit guides? These are all questions that we're going to go ahead and cover here. Hey, Taboo fam, peace and blessing. This is Derric Rau Khu, and we're going to go in here. We're going to focus on. We want to talk about why do we actually need ancestors and spirit guides? What's the whole purpose of working with them? The reason for this, for this video is basically got this question that came across, and it kind of stems from the fact that once we start getting into, if you're a beginner and you start getting into traditional, you start studying, our spirituality, you eventually will come across the fact that in traditional African religions, traditional African traditions, they don't have spirit guides. They'll focus more on ancestors, but they don't have spirit guides. So it kind of seems like, when you talk about spirit guides, that's something that people made up, okay? So I'm going here and I want to explain where that comes from, based upon my research again, and based upon my experience, where it all comes from. First of all, as you already know, a lot of this stems from the disconnect from our traditional ancestral ways, okay? As a result, there was some things that had to be made. There were some things that had to be, adapted and modified in order for us in the new world to continue to practice something that was similar to the way our ancestors went ahead and they dealt with the ancestral way, okay? And that's really where it stems from. So this is where the whole idea of guides, why people went ahead and they adopt this whole thing of guides. Now, part of the reason why they went ahead and I'm speaking of the elders who went ahead and made this decision to go ahead and say, okay, we're going to go ahead and start working with spirit guides, or we're going to call them spirit guides. Part of the reason why they did this is mainly because in this society, in the Western Hemisphere, a lot of the traditional ideology and theology, it was, basically, like I said, fragmented and destroyed, perverted, the whole deal. As a result, for instance, here in North America, okay, anybody who makes transition is called an ancestor, all right? But from a old world perspective, from an ancestral perspective, that is not the case, okay? Not the case at all. Just think about it. There are some living relatives that we have that when these individuals pass, first of all, you wouldn't even share information with them while they're alive, because they lack the maturity, they lack the knowledge, they lack the wisdom. They lack the understanding of any of that. They couldn't really offer you anything, any kind of guidance or advice, or anything. They can't do any of that. So what makes people think that when these individuals make a transition, they all of a sudden become an ancestor? Okay? That's not the case. All right? Now, the reason why a lot of people, or there's quite a few people who think that, is because they don't understand metaphysics. They don't understand the metaphysics of what happens when a person or when an individual makes transition. And what ends up happening is that they confuse what happens when an individual makes transition versus an individual's consciousness. Okay? Now, when an individual makes transition, okay, when an individual goes ahead and they makes transition, this is where, like I said, where this idea, this false idea comes from. They shed their physical body. And as a result of them shedding their physical body, they can see they're no longer limited by their physical body. Okay, they exist as a spirit. They can travel, travel to the other side of the world in a matter of seconds. Okay, on the other side of the planet, they can travel to different dimensions and so forth and so on in a matter of seconds, because no longer are they tied down with the physical body. Now, because that understanding of what happens when a person makes transition, it is because of that some people went ahead and they adopted this whole idea that makes the individual more knowledgeable or makes the individual more wiser, and that's not the case. Having the ability to go in here and do things versus you having a different type of or an elevated state of consciousness, completely different deal. Okay, and that's where the confusion comes in at. I've said this before. If an individual is a jerk in life, they continue to be an individual. They continue to be a jerk in death. Okay, so basically what it means is an ancestor is really an individual who in life is living an ancestral way, and in death they continue to live that ancestral way. Okay, that's one of the easiest way in which I can go ahead in this shortness of time. That's one of the easiest ways in which I can go ahead and I can put that. Okay, if you go ahead and you have a living ancestor that is in front of you, someone that you can go in here and you can tell them something and ask for some guidance in regards to certain things, in regards to your marriage, in regards to your family, in regards to, in regards to finances, in regards to your career, so forth and so on. That individual, they are a ancestor for that, lack of a better word. They're an ancestor. They're a living ancestor. So when they go in here and they make transition, they make transition into the spiritual realm, they become a ancestral spirit. Okay. Now, again, like I said, because of the disconnect, because not everybody is exactly the same. Okay, and because everybody is not considered to be an ancestor, because of all this, the things that have basically taken place. Okay, because of the whole history thing, and like I said, the disconnect due to slavery. Because of that, when in traditional African sense, there was everybody who was basically, like I said, there were certain levels, or an individual had to go ahead and they had to get to a certain level in order for them to be considered to be an ancestor. But here, like I said, North America, not the same. Okay, in the Americas, not the same. And this is the reason why you see certain distinctions that have been made. So, for instance, and this is what I've talked about, and I've mentioned this several times. You have what is called a family ancestor. Okay, you have, or biological ancestors. You have cultural ancestors. You have historical ancestors. Okay, for instance, biological ancestors. I have my grandparents, my great grandparents, my great uncles, great aunts. These are individuals, especially when I knew the history, I learned the history. These are individuals I would love to go in here or I do go in dialogue with in order to talk about things regarding our family. Okay, in regards to our extended family. Okay, but I wouldn't talk to them in regards to anything in regards to spirituality. I wouldn't talk to them about anything regarding Kemetic spirituality. I wouldn't talk to them about that because that's something they did not know. They weren't aware of that. So there's no reason for me to talk to them about that. Okay. Same idea. There's individuals who actually, they have a whole lot of knowledge. They had a whole lot of wisdom and everything in regards to things regarding money. I enter into dialogue with them, talk to them about that. Okay. But I wouldn't talk to those individuals about anything regarding my marriage, because that's not what they do. That's not what they dealt with. That's not something they mastered. Okay? So hopefully that gives you a better understanding of what it means when we're talking about ancestors and we're talking about spirit guides. Okay? Now, when it comes to spirit guides, because of the disconnect that's happening in regards to slavery and everything, everybody who basically has taken you up under their wing is not actually biologically related to you. Okay, here in the Americas, where we've had a whole lot of family lines that have been broken up and everything, there's individuals who have taken us up under their wing and has raised us like their own, because from a spiritual perspective, they are related, okay? But from a biological perspective, they are not related, okay? And this is where the term spirit guides comes in, all right? They are related to you. You're related to them. From a spiritual perspective, maybe it's because of you having the same interests, you having the same goals and what have you, and this is what attracts them to you. But that's the reason why they are working with you. That's the reason why they are with you. Okay, and that's the reason why we work with spirit guides. Okay, so hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. For those individuals who went ahead and sent me that question, and how do I do this? If you got any comments, questions, or suggestions, as I've stated before, drop me a line, okay? Until next time, Peace.